to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I must tell you that this is always one of the podcasts that I look most forward to every time I have you on. Of course, I'm referring to the Executive Director of the Education Foundation, Sandy Box, here to talk about a ton of things going on in the Education Foundation in the summer term. So, Sandy, it is such a pleasure to have you back.
Oh, thank you. I always love being here.
Well, Sandy, and I do want to lead off the podcast. So I did get to on a small vacation over the break. I know for many of you that know me know that it's not often that I get to take any kind of extended vacation. And you made one of my evenings so special because you gave me a wonderful recommendation of a great restaurant when I was in Las Vegas. And we absolutely loved it so much that we made our friends go too. So they also went. Just in case you're ever out there, Sandy recommends the Hole in the Wall.
Yes.
Just off the Strip. And it's actually really affordable, wonderful place, old Italian place. Absolutely loved it, Sandy.
Yeah. The ambiance, I think, is what's really cool about it. It's just you would not expect that type of setting when you walk into the building. It's like, what? Yeah.
We loved it. So anytime anyone gets out there, you may have to make sure you stop by Hole in
Yes.
the Wall. Maybe we'll get them as future sponsors.
There you go.
Well, we're also being joined here today by the Nightly News president, Alexa Sugared. Alexa, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's most certainly always our pleasure. So not only is that you're obviously very involved with the Nightly News, but you're also the intern for Sandy this summer in the Education Foundation. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things that you're doing with her, how you're helping out with the golf tournament, but also you kind of helping out students who might be filling out the scholarship application for the first time with the way you walk through the process because you've been very successful.
Yeah, I definitely have had some experience with the scholarship and how the process goes, so I'd be happy to talk about it.
Well, we will allow you to do so. So first of all, let's start off with the scholarship. As any astute Central Penn student knows, every winter and summer, they have the opportunity to fill out the scholarship application. And how we do that here at Central Penn College, of course, there's some information that needs to be filled out. But what's most important is that you fill out a response to a very interesting and unique question each and every time. So Sandy is going to share with us what that question is going to be this summer as sort of a little spoiler. So Sandy, let's fill us in.
Thank you very much. First off, what I want to say is, please don't be discouraged when you say, oh, I have to fill out an essay. It is an essay about you, so there's absolutely no way you can get it wrong. So here is the question for this year. Pay attention. You can start working on it now. Each student comes to Central Penn College with a unique history, educational goal, and dreams for the future. What would it mean to you to be offered one of the foundation scholarships?
And why I think that this is so important is I think a lot of times that students often focus on higher education and the cost. And speaking from somebody who is still in higher education, yes, the cost is immense. But I have been so lucky through my school, and of course, thousands and thousands of students through the Education Foundation have been able to go through this process and get a fair amount of money for their education, especially if you would fill it out every time and maybe be awarded something every time.
Right.
In the end, you're saving thousands of dollars in the long run just from taking a little bit of time to fill out these applications when they're available. So, and way that you give out funds also makes it so, what was it, something like 85% of the last couple you've actually awarded some type of money to?
Well, as a matter of fact, in spring we had 163 applications. 125 students were awarded, which is a percentage of 77%.
That's fantastic.
It's wild. And that was over $111,000 that we awarded.
That's
so
just wonderful.
Here's the opportunity that you have. You can get loans, which you have to pay back. You can
With
get
interest.
With interest. You can get grants, okay, from outside sources, or you can apply for scholarships. It's on merit. I mean, you have to answer the question, so you have to take the time to think it through and answer the question. But you have the opportunity to apply twice a year. So you have the opportunity every year to be awarded anywhere between $500 a term or $2,000. that depends upon you. So,
And when you say that depends upon you, what Sandy's alluding to is they are merit based, meaning that they're scored by a group of people,
Correct.
and the people, frankly, with higher scores do have the opportunity to get more money.
Right.
So please make sure, and one thing we always make sure that we point out, Sandy,
Yes.
is that it does say a minimum of 200 words. Really, this is sort of a ruse. We want to see an effort. I mean, that's really what the key is from the scorer's perspective. Now, I've never
Right.
actually personally scored any of these essays, but just in our conversations, you want to make sure that you write, a normal 5-paragraph essay like you'd write in a lot of your different classes. Make sure it's, a page or two. I don't think they're looking for a book.
No.
But a page or two, I think, is good. And I think often when people see 200 words, they just write like a paragraph. And those are the people that probably aren't getting the scholarship dollars.
Right. I mean, you have to answer the question, and keep in mind that this is the only opportunity or the only way that somebody can really judge whether or not you are a worthy candidate to receive scholarship dollars. And so you have to take the time, you have to go through, put in a little bit of effort, check your spelling, check your grammar, answer the question. Other than that, you're good. I mean, it's the easy. I tell people all the time, it's the easiest opportunity you will ever have, spending a half an hour to get $500
Or more.
or more. Right.
And so trust me, that the trade-off is definitely worth the time outlaid. So that's going to be open from August 1st through August the 26th.
Right.
Now, what I would say is you always want to try to get it in. Now, I'm sure you get a lot of them right in under the deadline. But you always want to try to get this stuff in at least 3 or 4 days early, just so you can make sure that it was received properly and that you don't have anything follow-up that you need to do. Typically, you should just be able to turn this in, and it'll be fine.
Right.
But in the past, we have heard that there might have been a small computer glitch or something like that. So it's always important that you receive the confirmation screen, which I wanted you to share a little bit more about.
Yeah. I mean, we have had some issues in the past, and when one of the questions is that you have to fill in your student ID. Well, if somebody puts in the wrong student ID, and then you try to put yours in, you might get kicked out because it only accepts one application per student. So if you don't get the screen that says that it's been successfully submitted, or you get something that comes up and says something about cookies or improper ID.
Are you giving out cookies in your office?
Yeah, I know. Contact me immediately, because then I can go in, or I can give you a new number that you can just fill in and submit it in through. And I can see usually instantaneously that it has been accepted. So please don't wait until afterwards. We've had that issue, and I will say that I'm usually very cognizant and very kind to accept it after the fact if you can prove to me that you submitted it before the deadline. So, I don't want to penalize anyone, but please pay attention. Just because you hit submit, make sure that it did actually submit.
Absolutely, and you can reach out to her should you have any issues at sandrabox@centralpenn.edu.
Right.
Well, I want to bring Alexa in here on our discussion about these scholarships. Alexa, you have been here for, 3 years? And almost completed. In fact, this will actually be the last scholarship opportunity that you're going to have here before you graduate. But you've done so well on these, and we're not necessarily at liberty to say like what amounts you've won. It's private information. However, we can say that you've won multiple times. I think that that's fair to say. So can you just share with, let's say a student has filled it out before, maybe wasn't successful, or maybe it's a new student coming in that has never done this before. Can you just walk through the process? Like when you hear the question, what process do you go through in order to write your essay that you've been so successful?
So when I write my essays, I definitely spend a lot in the planning period, kind of going over and brainstorming what I want to talk about and how I want to make my essay as unique as possible, while it also basically describes me as a person and what I want these people who are grading the essays or scoring them to know about me. So I definitely spend a lot of time planning what I want to write about and how I want to reach that emotional appeal. And then I also so after the brainstorming, I kind of set my essay up of how I want it to flow properly. And then after that, I just start writing. But I would say a majority of the time I spend editing and going over, does this sound right? Does this flow together? What grammar mistakes did I make? Kind of proofreading it. And another important part that I would suggest to other students wanting to apply is have other people proofread your essay before you submit it, whether that be the library, who's really helpful in proofreading, maybe a professor that you trust and really like their opinion, or even like your fellow students that would proofread it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing to note is that I think a lot of times, especially in the education system, we don't necessarily feel that we have a whole lot of other people that can look over our material. And it is really important to have somebody else, no matter really who it is, look it over. It may not even be somebody who's in school, but just having that second or even third pair of eyes is really helpful. And that's where the library can come in to play, as well as the Learning Center. And both of those organizations, Sandy, are such and can be such an important piece to this scholarship essay. So the Learning Center especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of students may not have had the opportunity yet to submit an essay. And so then I think sometimes the word essay kind of puts a little bit of fear into them. And again, that's why I say to them, you can't get it wrong. It's about you. So absolutely, if you have the ideas and you're not exactly sure how to get started and you don't want to talk to another friend about it or classmate, go to the Learning Center, go to the library. They're more than helpful. As a matter of fact, they sometimes will do workshops if there's the time and the opportunity to do that, so that they can have students come in, sit down and talk to them, kind of give them a plan for that. So everyone here wants our students to succeed. So we do as much as we possibly can to aid in that process. And, you know, if it's assistance in preparing an essay, fine. The other thing that I do require is that if you are awarded a scholarship, you must submit a thank you note. And those thank you notes are then forwarded on to the donors. And again, as Alexis said, the emotional piece of it. That's the only way that these donors know that they're making an impact on our students'
100%.
lives. Right. They don't see them on a daily basis. They don't. So when you're sending something, when you're doing the essay, that's how you're making an impact. When you submit a thank you note, that's how you're making an impact. And if we impact our donors to the point that they feel something when they've read your essay or they've read your thank you note, that's how then that they turn around and they pay it forward. They give more money to support more students. So I don't ask for the thank you note as just one more thing for you to do. I ask for it because it actually does serve a purpose with fundraising and with going back to donors and letting the donors know that the money that they have provided has an impact on these students' lives.
Makes a difference.
And that's important.
One final thing that we always make sure that we note has to do with the Stabler Foundation. There's going to be a
Yes.
question on there that asks you if you are willing to, as you would say, Sandy, pay it forward. Maybe down the line, if you would consider donating back to the Education Foundation. And unfortunately, so many people don't check this box. And honestly, everyone, this is where the larger awards come from.
Correct.
And I want to just make it very clear that this is not a financial obligation. Sandy is not going to come a couple years from now and knock on your door and demand payment. It's simply a moral obligation. Just that down the line, when your Central Penn education has done well for you, maybe you would be willing to recoup some of that money that you were awarded at some point. So always a really important point that I want to bring up with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Donald B. and Dorothy L. Stabler, they were very much into education. They supported it. They left behind a very large legacy. And so they help students in all colleges throughout Central Pennsylvania. Central Penn College just happens to be one of them. And so what I do is, yes, it's a moral obligation. And then if you are awarded a scholarship after you graduate, I will send you a little note annually reminding you that while you were here, you were fortunate enough to be selected. And if you have the ability to pay it forward, that you can start at any time. And it's not as though if you received a $2,000 scholarship, I'm not asking you for the $2,000 right then. Maybe it's $20 a month. Maybe it's $20 every 6 months. It's just the whole process of getting started in paying it forward, helping others as you have been helped. And you know how you felt when you got it, so that we want other students to have that same feeling.
Indeed. Well, during the month of August, that's August 1st through August 26th, you can go to foundation.centralpenn.edu. You'll answer the question that Sandy talked about earlier and make sure that that application does go through after you hit submit. Should you have any issues or questions, you can reach out to sandrabox@centralpenn.edu.
Right.
Well, we're going to move on to sort of our second segment here, and we're going to be talking with the new intern, which would be our Nightly News president, Alexa Sugart, of the Education Foundation. So, Alexa, tell us a little bit about your experience thus far. So far, you've had about a month to work with Sandy, not only getting ready for the scholarship essay, but also the golf tournament. So tell us a little bit, what are some of the things that you've been doing since you've been working with Sandy?
So working with Sandy has literally been the best thing. I've had so much fun, and I've learned so much in such a short amount of time. Some of the things that I've been doing is I've been learning how to work our different social media channels, and that has been really fun because I kind of like the management of, creating a piece and then being able to upload it and then actually seeing it on a platform like, hey, that's my work. So not only writing and producing work, but also Sandy has been really helpful in helping me edit pieces, oh, this sounds better when it sounds like this. And so that has been really fun. I definitely also have taken into graphic design by kind of creating different emails and sending that out to Central Station and Student Central. So kind of formatting them to fit different audiences has been an important piece that I've learned how to speak to each demographic. So that has been really fun too. But basically, I've just been learning a whole lot of information, and it's been helpful because for the past 2 years, I've been studying this stuff in my classes, and to actually apply it to a real job position, even though I'm an intern, it's still a real job that I'm learning how to do information, like how to apply the information and the knowledge that I've been studying for the past 2 years. So those are kind of pieces that I've been working on, and just honestly having a lot of fun doing it.
Sandy's a wonderful person to work with. I mean, I can totally see why you have a good time. But Sandy, she's really needed. I mean, this has to be your busiest term with not only the scholarship, but the golf tournament as well. So it's got to be wonderful to have a second set of hands there to help you because you are an office of one.
I am an office of one, and she is a delight. And the funny thing is that when I knew I was getting an intern, I told the whole Office of Advancement and Strategic Initiatives, I'm getting an intern, so I don't want her to be bored. And
I don't think that that's possible.
And I wanted her to get a feel for, like, how does the whole office work together? And so she's been working with marketing, and they come in with some pieces for her to do, and then hopefully she's going to be working with in the events, get a little bit of information about the events and marketing that, and how to get the pieces of communication out for that. But so I have to protect her. I'm just telling you, I have to protect her.
Otherwise
because they
all
they all want her. My goal is that she will get a feel for the things that she likes and the things that she doesn't like.
Absolutely.
Through this experience. So that's my whole thing.
And that's really what a key to an internship is. I mean, I've had, even like volunteering to a certain extent, but mainly internships. Like, internships are good, hopefully because you're finding something that you're interested in.
Right.
But if there's an area that maybe you're not interested in as you get into that internship, that going forward, sort of where you're going to fit in your career path based on your own wants and desires.
Right.
Now, I will say, there's no way you're going to find a job where you love every single part about it.
No.
Those jobs just honestly don't exist. However, you can still get a sense of the things that you really enjoy, and you can try to highlight those in your future career positions. So, well, of course, I would be remiss to have you on the podcast and not talk about one of my favorite days of the year, and we're talking about the Education Foundation Golf Open that's going to take place on August 12th at Rich Valley Golf, 8 o'clock registration, 9 o'clock shotgun start. So it's in the morning, and we have a nice little luncheon in the afternoon with all types of prizes. Always one of my favorite days every single year, but I'm sure it's one that you're happy to see come and go. I mean, of course you love it, and of course it's just so much work, and it's so many moving pieces.
Right.
But tell us a little bit more about what you have in store for this year.
Okay, so we've made a few changes this year because I'm always about looking at things that we can improve upon from one year to the next, and we noticed that the raffle baskets have kind of been dwindling in their appeal. So what we decided we're going to do this year is we have two different opportunities for you to purchase raffle tickets. One is for the Basket of Cheer, which is for an adults only. So that'll be good. And then we have another one. It's called the Family Fun Basket, and it'll be filled with tickets for Grinchmas here on campus, things for the fall harvest. We have tickets for baseball games, dance classes, picnic supplies. So it's just going to be a nice package valued probably $600-700.
Oh, wow.
And you have the opportunity to take a chance on it. And we just thought we would try this. Good return on investment, hopefully, the time-wise, because the raffle takes a lot of time.
Yes.
So it really does. So changing things up a little bit this year. We have a goal this year of $40,000. So that's a great thing. We also did a little different sponsorship level this year where we have what's called the ACE sponsor, and that sponsor was for $5,000, and then their name gets put on the golfer gift that people carry away with them, so that's always great. So that was something new. I will tell you at this very moment, we have 32 teams
Wow.
signed up.
That's fantastic.
If they all come through, we'll have 32 teams. We could possibly have 33 teams. But yeah, so it should be it's a good day. People tell me every year, I'm not a golfer. So they say to me, "Oh, do you golf?" No, I throw a party around golf. That's all I do. So, but people tell me every year when they leave, this is the best
It is.
golf tournament that I participate
Listen,
in.
I've golfed in several tournaments over the years, and by far the most well organized. You have food and coffee and things when people come up. You've
Right.
got a gift bag. You've got hot dogs on the turn. You've
Right.
got a full lunch. You've got raffles, the whole 9 yards. Camaraderie. I mean, it's really, really, really well put together. So I appreciate all the hard work that goes
Yeah.
into that. One more time, that's going to be August 12th at Rich Valley. If you would like to get involved in the Golf Open, please reach out to Sandy Box at sandrabox@centralpenn.edu. Well, Sandy, as always, it's such a pleasure.
It is.
Unfortunately, you have a meeting to go to,
I
so
do.
I need to make sure that you get out of here on time. But Sandy, honestly, it's always my pleasure to have you in here, and I'm so glad, Alexa, that you're not only enjoying your learning and that, Sandy speaks unbelievably highly of you.
Yes.
So it sounds like things have been going wonderfully the first month here.
Yeah, it's been such a great time, and I'm excited for the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to be sad when I have to leave.
Well, you'll always remain in spirit, Alexa.
There you go.
So-
There you go.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you, Sandy. Thank you so very much for stopping by today.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. For the Executive Director of the Education Foundation and the Nightly News President and Foundation Intern, Alexa Sugart and Sandy Box, we'll see you again next time on the Nightly News Podcast.
Hi, my name is Karen Jury. I am the evening librarian and textbook coordinator at Central Penn College. Thank you for listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I'm here with always one of my favorite guests. And the second time we've gotten to have you on this term, it's the Dean of Student Engagement, Adrienne Thoman. Adrienne, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, as always, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we have a special thing to talk with you about this time around, and it is going to focus on the CPC Film Series. It's going to be taking place on Friday, August 5th at 6 o'clock in the Capitol Blue Cross Theater, our quarterly film series. And this time, Adrienne is stepping up to the plate and going to do one of her favorite films, Dirty Dancing, the 1987 blockbuster. You wouldn't maybe up front consider it a blockbuster, but in terms of money-wise, it brought in over $214 million at the international box office. So still to this day has a presence in our American popular culture. So definitely a relevant film to be discussing. So Adrienne, tell us a little bit more about why you picked this film and maybe what some of your plans are going to be for this presentation.
Oh, well, first of all, this movie, it came out in 1987, and don't do the math, but I was 7 years old when this movie came out. And I remember, I didn't see it in the theater because I was little, but I remember.
I saw it in the theater.
And I will now be
my
forever jealous.
My mom took me to the theater to see it, and she's a big fan of the movie. She's going to be down to check it out. So, but yeah, she took me to the theater to see that. That was one of our things when I was younger, is going to the movies. And this was, a PG-13 movie, but it's not like crazy bad in terms of children being able to see it. I mean, I guess maybe there's some suggestive information throughout, but when you compare what kids are seeing today, it's
That's true.
very tame.
Well, I remember I had a VHS tape because when we owned it and just watched it over. And even then, like today, I can still at any point in time watch that movie over and over on repeat. And I did it since I was little. I love it.
That's awesome. So what was it about the film that you liked so much? I mean, why is this one that stuck with you after all these years as being one of your favorites?
I have to tell you, I put a thing on Facebook to try to ask
I saw that.
a few other people, hey, Facebook world friends, what makes you love Dirty Dancing? And it was just across the board. So many different ways that the movie has touched people's hearts. First of all, there are a lot of kind of powerful themes when you dig into what the movie is about. But then it was also, okay, the kind of offbeat girl gets this hunky Patrick Swayze. And I think that probably was what I was, kind of that offbeat girl. So I think we all are like Jennifer Grey a little bit and want Patrick Swayze to pull us out of the corner, right?
I guess. So I guess to me, it has had a sort of a different perspective. Of course, like you talked about some of the themes, and I'd love for you to kind of break those down a little bit. But I always thought that it was a really excellent story of redemption in a way, coming out of your shell in a way, and the way that the character played by Patrick Swayze was so influential in Baby's life in terms of helping her kind of break out of that shell that she was in at the beginning of the film, which is something that's always kind of sat with me after all these years.
Oh, absolutely. And you can watch, we'll talk about it a little in my presentation that night, but we'll talk a little bit about how you can actually watch Baby's progression from the very beginning to the end. Everything from her costuming. You look at what she wears when she's coming in. She wasn't like wearing turtlenecks or anything, but very modest, very conservative. And by the end, she's kind of embracing the sexuality and just different, completely different. Her confidence level from point A to point B is so different. You look at the ability in her dancing. Oh, that we all know that first little merengue class, right? And how she was stepping on toes and everything like that. And then she goes to the final scene, the lift.
Breathtaking.
Right? Breathtaking. And as her dance abilities improve, as her confidence improves, she grows into the woman that she truly is. So,
which also speaks to a theme in the film is confidence in your own abilities. I think that part of the reason she was able to make that progression is because the more and more training that she had, the more confidence she had in herself to know that she could go out and do it. And it's something I talk about in class, and I'm sure you do too, called the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
Part of being a successful person in your field or just at things in general is just the ability for you to tell yourself and have confidence in yourself that you're going to be able to do it. And honestly, and with working with the students that we do, we see that frequently. A lot of times it's just the students' lack of faith in their own abilities that is a hindrance to them. And again, this film,
100%.
I think, is a wonderful way to look at the theme of that in this film, which I found unbelievably interesting, when I was thinking about this film. So let's start. So you've obviously loved this film for so long. In just a sort of a non-spoiler way,
Okay.
Part of what we do with the CPC Film Series is each person who is presenting offers a, let's say, 30-minute presentation about a variety of different things. Sometimes we've talked about the themes of the film, or we've talked about the style of the film or the directors of the film. What direction are you going to go in your own presentation?
So I really struggled because there were so many. I think it's part of the favorite movie thing. Like, I just want to talk about everything, but there are a couple. So it's going to be a little chunking happening. But I want to definitely talk about what we just discussed with the building of the confidence and how Baby, she really, as she's growing and developing it into a woman, her primary purpose, right? She's going to join the Peace Corps. She's going to make it. She wants to make a difference, right? And then she meets Johnny, and I think the way that she first envisioned making that difference really got skewed for her. And she ended up making an incredible impact on the lives of all of the people that she affected in that movie. And that maybe wasn't her original intent, but it really was. She changed Johnny's outlook and the way he interacted with people, and certainly changed Penny and just and her dad. here's her dad just with that, a little bit of that closed-minded, he's not my, Johnny Castle is not in our class, like he's not our people. And by the end, I mean, I assume everybody's watching the movie, so I'm not going to give a spoiler, but by the end,
It is 35 years old.
Yes.
I mean, when's the spoiler alert date, go?
I don't need to say that anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, I guess you don't want to spoil a ton of movies, but a classic like this that's 35 years old, I can see a movie that's a year or two old, or even a TV show that's a year or two old, not wanting to spoil it. But even, like, okay, so I'm, like, super into Better Call Saul, right? Every single video I watch is like, this is going to give spoilers for Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad ended in 2012. I
So
mean,
it's your own fault if you didn't watch it yet.
It's your own fault at this point, right? So yeah, I don't think we're worrying about spoiler alerts here for a 35-year-old movie.
Although I will say I did have the opportunity. One of the things we did on campus here was we did an outdoor movie, and we projected on one of the sides of the apartments, and we watched Dirty Dancing because the students had never seen it. I was talking to some of the girls and I'm like, listen, if you've never seen this movie, you have to. And we totally did. Like, I camp out, I had blankets on the lawn and watched it on the side of the wall. And it was special to me to get to share that.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love to hear that. Well, we're also being joined here by the Nightly News correspondent, Dylan Bowman. Dylan has done such a wonderful job covering the film series throughout his time here at the college, and he's going to continue doing that as the Nightly News president here over the next couple of terms. So, Dylan, obviously, we're sitting here, we're talking with Adrienne about Dirty Dancing, her film that's coming up on Friday, August 5th at the Capitol Blue Cross Theater. What experience do you have with this film? Is this one that you've seen in the past and you're familiar with?
I have actually had no experience with this film whatsoever, but I've heard it is a classic, so I'm looking forward to it.
So that'll be the first time you get to see
Yes,
it. Oh,
it
I'm
will
excited to hear what you think.
What's really interesting about that is I can't tell you very few of the films, honestly, that have been for the film series I'd seen going in. And the one that I remember most notably was Get Out. When Leslie did Get Out, when we first returned back to the film series after the pandemic, I had never seen it. And going into it, I was kind of torn. Should I see it? Or should I just go into it without, fresh? And I was going to actually watch it beforehand, so, Leslie's presentation before the film would make more sense. Mm-hmm. But I'm so glad that I didn't, because watching the film through the way that Leslie analyzed it the very first time was so interesting and fascinating to me that since then, if there was a film I hadn't seen, I won't watch it. The same thing happened with Scott Pilgrim. I was, again, going to watch that, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to spoil it for myself. With Dirty Dancing, listen, I've seen it many times, but it's been a while. Okay, so typically I'd probably go back and rewatch, but again, I'm going to go into it with sort of a fresh mindset without having seen it. So I'm really looking forward to that. Well, Dylan, so part of your goal here is to write the story and cover the film series. What are some things that maybe questions that you have in mind that Adrienne might be able to answer for you?
Well, something that I was kind of wondering as I was thinking about, well, this is a classic film. Mm-hmm. It was made a little while ago. What's the cinematography like in this film? Because that's something that I'm always looking for in a new film that I'm watching. Like, what's the artistic flair that he might throw in there?
Well, the one thing I can say is because of where it's filmed, it's very picturesque. So that's part of, what goes into cinematography is, where it's being shot, and it's shot on location, and you can talk a little bit more about where it's shot and maybe some interesting parts of that. But what I will say is it seems like it definitely doesn't seem like it's on a set. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's beautiful scenery that goes along for a lot of the outdoor shots, which I think does add to the ambiance of the film.
Oh, well, the one thing that I really appreciate is how beautiful everything is in the movie. It's picturesque, beautiful scenes filmed at two different resorts, Mountain Lake Lodge, which is in West Virginia, and then another resort in North Carolina. And I had the opportunity to go to Mountain Lake Lodge, which is awesome. Also known as Kellerman's.
So is it like a Dirty Dancing package where
They have a Dirty Dancing weekend, yes.
So they have a specific weekend. So if you're interested in learning more about the film and where it was shot and that's really cool.
So there's a theme weekend, but they also have like the key locations that the movie was shot at. Like they have markers. So you can do it anytime you go. You can do like a little scavenger hunt and see all the cool stuff. So they said that they had to wait till the people that were vacationing had to leave to be able to film it. So
Right.
it was like right on the edge of fall, which is not when the movie takes place. It's summer. So they had to like spray paint leaves to get them to be the right color. And when they did that scene where in the water, when they were in the lift, it was really cold.
Right.
Because it was
That's why they
later in
make
the season.
That's why they make the big bucks, right?
Yep.
Well, one of the things that I really wanted to ask you is, obviously you have been such an instrumental part of the film series over the years, and I believe we started the film series in 2017. Now in our 5 years, I didn't even notice that. We might have to do something special for that. Well, but it's been 5 years of the film series that we've done every quarter, except of course the couple we couldn't during COVID, and even then we still did some online stuff, which was pretty cool when I released my film. But my point is never before did you say that you had a whole lot of interest in presenting. And this time around when we were looking for a presenter, you stepped up right away. Why was it something that you wanted to do so badly? Because you have been, as soon as we announced this, you've been like super passionate about doing this, which is wonderful. But I'm just curious why now? Why you decided to do this film now?
I have to say it certainly wasn't available time because I'm working on my dissertation. So that was not the reason. But I've always wanted to do it, and I've really appreciated the different films that everybody has featured and all the things that you can learn about it. And hey, it's the 35th anniversary of Dirty Dancing, so hello, perfect timing.
And that's something else that I really did want to mention is I actually just read when I was getting ready for today that they are actually re-releasing it into theaters in August. Mm-hmm. Of course, you're going to beat them to the punch.
I will, yes.
But after the fact, they're going to be releasing it in theaters to commemorate the 35th anniversary. And unfortunately, Patrick Swayze passed away quite a few years ago, but I believe Jennifer Grey is still around, and I think you mentioned
she just wrote a book.
Tell us a little bit more about that book, and maybe is all of this connected?
So it just came out. It was literally just released a couple of months ago, and it's called Out of the Corner. Incredible story. She talked a little bit about, obviously there's never enough about Dirty Dancing in any book because there was only like a little bit that she talked about it, like one chapter. But it was so interesting to learn more about her because in my heart, I see Jennifer Grey, I'm like, that's baby, right? You see Patrick Swayze, it is Johnny Castle. Like these are their identities to me in my heart. So it was interesting to hear more about her journey as an actress and the things that she's been involved in and just like her life story. It was very interesting.
Well, I got to be honest, this is one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to, not only because, we're friends and we've been doing this for so long in terms of the film series, but just because I really think that this has the opportunity and potential to reach out to a new generation. And that was something else that I was reading about with this film, is that this film has managed to span really 2 generations at this point and has the potential of going to a third. Of course, there was another Dirty Dancing related film, Havana Nights. I'm not sure what your feelings on that particular film were. I wonder if it seems like one of those situations where why would you make a sequel because you're never going to be able to live up to the first one, especially after that long of time. Almost like,
But you know what's happening. There is going to be a sequel coming out.
Is it a sequel
Yes.
or is it a reboot?
Sequel.
How are they going to? How is that even possible?
It's going to be at Kellerman's. It's going to be in the 90s, so it's going to have I think it's going to have like a hip hop flair to it. So instead of like the mambo and the pachanga and all that kind of stuff, it's going to have hip hop. I hear Alanis Morissette maybe involved, but it's going to be Jennifer Grey will be in it. So Baby's character will be a part of it and somehow in the story, but her story is going to intertwine, I guess, with another couple or another character in the piece.
So it almost seems like what a lot of these films are doing. I'm just off the top of my head thinking Ghostbusters, where they're trying to play it forward to a new audience with a new cast, but with still some of those folks from the original cast, like the newest Ghostbusters film that had all of the gentlemen, and of course, except for Harold Ramis, who had passed away. Yeah. But of course, you had Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson and Bill Murray, of course, as a way to bring that new group of people. Dylan and I, we talk about this a lot. This is actually something that he's really interested in and frankly frustrated by. And it's how, and I am too, I want to just put it all on Dylan here, is it's frustrating to people who, Dylan, making films, and myself, I have made a film, but I'm more of an analysis person. It's frustrating that in a world with so many wonderful stories and ideas, that the film studios are continuing to go back to the well of these, I don't want to say Dirty Dancing's, has been rehashed to death, because it hasn't, but it frustrates us that there aren't more new ideas coming out of Hollywood. So I hope that at a minimum, the people who are doing this film are taking the time and care to make it a really good film.
But then you look at Top Gun, right? So your initial reaction is, oh, how can they mess with like Top Gun?
Very
is
true. That's true.
Right? But
I heard it was
it's getting
really good.
I haven't seen it yet,
Oh,
but it's
yeah,
getting
same.
really good reviews.
I saw it opening weekend. And I was never really a Top Gun fan. I was just, hey, we were just so happened we weren't busy that weekend, and my wife wanted to go see it. So we did, and I really enjoyed it. And, just a lot of people said that it was better, even though the story was almost exactly the same, because of it looked better visually.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty Dancing didn't rely on special effects. And so
No, in fact, Johnny Castle did all of his dancing.
I guess that's my point, is the way that Top Gun was better was visually, whereas I don't know that you could be visually a whole lot better. Obviously, it's 35 years later, so it's going to look more crisp. But I don't know that the effects is what really impacts the perception that people have of the film.
Right.
But we shall see. And I hope that somebody that goes back into this story has enough sense that they're really going to put some time into what the story is going to be, and hopefully they can have sort of the same effect that it once did on popular culture, and still does to this point.
We loved, when you talk about it going generation to generation, one of my girlfriends who is equally enamored with this movie, like we are both obsessed. She went with me to Dirty Dancing weekend. When her daughter turned 8, we did an official Dirty Dancing screening with her daughter.
Oh, wow.
So it was like a big thing. Like you're 8, okay, we're gonna do this, and we all watched it together. It was a very big thing.
Well, and Dylan, I don't know if you had any other thoughts or questions that you wanted to ask Adrienne before we called it a day here.
Yeah, absolutely. What made you choose this film in particular? Like, it sounds like it's a pretty high up film for you. Is this your favorite film?
100%.
100%.
Number one. This is the
Awesome.
number one.
Number one.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
And not only that, how many VHS copies did you have?
Oh, that was Wayne's World. I had to buy the second VHS tape.
Me too. I had that issue as well. Well, I got to be honest. This is definitely one of the. Not that I don't look forward to all of the film series. Please don't get me wrong. But this is certainly one I'm looking forward to very much, as are my wife and my mom, who are both going to be there, all looking forward to this. And I'm just so happy that you've wanted to do this, and I hope that we can get a nice crowd for you. One final thing I wanted to note. The musical nights are going to be sponsoring this particular one. One of the things that we decided when we came back after the pandemic is that we really wanted to have a little bit more student involvement. And what we mean by that is that we would like to get a student club involved and allow them the opportunity to not only talk to the students and faculty and staff about what they're doing, also kind of give a pitch to maybe get some more people interested in what they're doing. So the Musical Nights is a new club here on campus that is advised by Professor Tom Davis, also one of my colleagues who's also done the film series a couple of times, and they are going to be doing, spoiler alert, 80s trivia.
Yes.
It's going
Love
to
it.
start at 6:30, probably the first 15 minutes or so, and they're going to have a special prize for the winners of that event. So just wanted to let everybody know to make sure you're there at 6:30 so we can get started with that 80s trivia before Adrienne's presentation. So really looking forward to that as well. Always great to have new clubs on campus. Right,
Oh, I
Adrienne?
love it. I'm excited to be able to be a part of it.
Well, Adrienne, it's always our pleasure to have you on the Nightly News Podcast, especially talking about something that I'm so passionate about in the CPC Film Series. So thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to August 5th.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Dylan, of course, thank you so much for all of your hard work covering the film series. Of course, you have a couple of more left before you get out of here, and you have really stepped in and filled some pretty big shoes. Leslie Heimbaugh was our CPC Film Series correspondent for several years while she was here, and you have managed to fill those shoes very, very well. So I want to thank you and send you much appreciation.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
All right, well, just one more quick plug. That'll be Friday, August 5th. Doors open for the CPC Film Series with Adrienne Thoman featuring Dirty Dancing at 6 o'clock, and the 80s trivia will start at 6:30, and Adrienne will start her presentation about 6:45. So make sure you're down there for the CPC Film Series. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast for the Dean of Student Engagement, Adrienne Thoman, and for the Nightly News President and Film Series Correspondent, Dylan Bowman. We'll see you again next time on the Nightly News Podcast.